A special thank you to Whooptum Wizards for supporting the channel. Feel free to purchase any singles or product with my affiliate link below. Any purchases help support me to make future content and are greatly appreciated. Thank you. Alright, so here we are in a game against Briar. So the Briar player opens up with a Rune Chant into a Lightning Surge that has Go Again. So they're on the play, and obviously we're fine blocking out entirely. The question is just how to do it. There was an argument that maybe pitching a yellow would have been better for the Rune Chant, and the off chance that they actually want to reactivate Grasp, which is what ends up happening. Probably should have saw that coming, but instead we get a Lightning Press instead. And so while over blocking it, we still take damage on turn 1. But now we get to keep a high octane, we get to draw up, and hopefully we're going to find a way to arsenal this and maybe not lose too much tempo, not fully extending out and being able to keep an arsenal. So looking at this hand, I'm pretty interested, obviously, in maybe just pitching, playing Zipper Hit into payload and arsenaling high octane. It's probably about the only good thing we could do, unfortunately. There's not much else we can do with this hand. It's mostly blues. There's a possible chance that we could just use high octane here, but off of a 4-card hand with a payload that costs 2 and a bunch of blues, like there's not really a good reason to do that. I'm just kind of fine sitting at 19 life, taking a turn off and hoping that a 5-card hand with high octane is enough to push through for lethal, hopefully. Into Briar, we're mostly concerned about the Briar setting up too much with a 5-card hand and being able to pressure 20 life, and then having a lot of split damage with things like Grasp, Rosetta Thorn, Rebel and Rune Blood, even things like Bramble Spark. There is an issue where too much of the damage is leaking through, so if we take too much damage to set up our own turn and we don't get lethal, and the Briar player gets to keep cards, we'll probably just lose or have to basically give up our whole hand for the rest of the game, and then probably lose anyway, because having so much arcane damage split through is pretty difficult for us, especially only having Arcane Barrier 1. So we end up just not putting a counter on Pistol. There is another line where we play Zipper Hit, we activate Foundry Heart, and then we get a counter on Pistol and a payload, but the payload won't have Dominate. But I just decided it's better just to push through the damage anyway, because assuming we're not dead from 19 life and potentially multiple blocks with our armor, then a hand like this, right, with 2 blues, a 1-cost and 2-cost boost card, is looking like it's more than enough for lethal, which gets us tempo into Briar, especially Briar having non-blocks like Lightning Press, poor blocks like 2 blocks, like Plunder Run, things like that. Like, Briar isn't very good at blocking. However, the Briar player does have an extremely explosive turn. We see Gorgtum into Plunder Run, getting an embodiment of lightning into Force of Nature, which now comes in with an E-Strike. It's like actually kind of absurd. So that's something to consider, right? The E-Strike is now buffed by Plunder Run, so Force of Nature actually threatens another card draw on it, so 2 card draws off of it hitting. So here's the deal, right? It's pretty easy to say like, oh, we should just like fully block this out, right? Like we just throw our hand in front of it, we deny the card draw. I think there's an argument for that. I think the only thing was that I don't think I'm dying this turn, at least that's my assumption. The Briar player is at 15 life. They've already used armor to block. So the thing is that it's looking like high octane is more than enough to pressure lethal, because Throttle plus Gauntlet is 10, Zipper is 15, so that's already threatening lethal, and we have multiple pistol shots after that, plus whatever other card we may draw off of high octane. So I know I'm getting tempo back if I can survive this turn, but the problem is they draw 2, 3 cards extra this turn. It was probably one of the most explosive Briar turns I've seen. It was pretty honestly scary to have to stare down. But I was just kind of trusting that hopefully we're not completely dead, and that even going to a few life, maybe even like 2, I think 2 is a good place to be against Briar, because even if they try to keep as much of their hand and they go to 1, so then come back with an active Rosetta Thorn, you at least have enough to pay for the Arcane Barrier 1 and live. But so we take the Rune Chance here, and now I'm looking at an Autumn's Touch that I believe is coming in for 7 if I remember correctly. So I look at my 2 armor, obviously. there's no way for Snapdragons to give a go again, so I'm not concerned about a Rosetta Thorn coming in as well. And so I block. Now, also Lightning Press wouldn't be able to target Autumn's Touch because the cost is too high. If I knew that I was dead to Lightning Press, maybe I would consider throwing one card in front of it just to be sure. But it seemed like I was pretty in the clear for no combat tricks or any sort of reactions that would all of a sudden present lethal. So we did exactly what we wanted to do, which was survive that turn any way we could. They do have an embodiment of Earth token, which is not great for us, but the thing with pistols is that we're going to go so wide, it doesn't really matter. It's just going to be inefficient blocks for our opponent. So now we're staring down 9 resources, which is pretty crazy. That's more than enough to pistol multiple times, even including Achilles Accelerator if we want. So we're just interested in stacking up as much as possible. So the zipper hit comes in for 7 here, which is hopefully going to be enough to bait the Briar player into going low enough. That is one thing, is into Wizard, you kind of want to present the most damage up front so that the Wizard player then has to commit cards. You're more worried about overextending too much of your hand. So if we play the zipper hit, then the throttle into Wizard to present lethal, then the Wizard player could just combo in response to the second one, right? The throttle that presents lethal. But into some other decks like aggro, it's almost better to kind of like slow roll your hands. Like you can get them to go a little bit too low than where they should. And then all of a sudden they're inefficiently blocking for the rest of the game. So that's what we're clearly hoping for, right? We're hoping that the Briar player takes a 7, goes to 8. Throttle is now lethal. And then any pistol shots are pretty much guaranteed to take cards out of their hand. Now what we do see is we see a block for 7. And at this point, I'm obviously just trying to push through as much damage as possible. Swing tempo back in my favor, since Briar on the back foot is pretty much guaranteed to lose because of having 2 blocks, having non-blocks. The embodiment of Earth tokens make up for a lot of that, but if they don't even have the ability to attack us at all and even proc one on hit, then we're pretty much fine. So at this point, we're at 3 action points. And so we're just going to pitch a blue here, and we're just going to pistol for a bunch afterwards. So we're definitely presenting way more than lethal. We're presenting, I believe, over 20 damage this turn, which is exactly the sort of setup turn that we wanted. It's really good for us. The question is just, is a Briar player going to be able to come back with now a 3-card hand? But hopefully we have enough to present lethal here and maybe get 1 more card out. And yep, so we just have a lot of action points stored up with the High Octane, which is probably the reason why I still enjoy having this card in the deck. Some people are preferring Talishar now. I did see that, the calling, the Blitz calling yesterday. I still do like how wide pistol can go though, because imagine this sort of hand, but with like Talishar, for instance. Like I don't think you'd be able to present as much and go this wide, which makes it pretty problematic for Briar. So we see the Briar player go to 1. This is really good for us. Pretty much makes like any sort of breakpoint now require more cards. We actually just decided to pop Achilles now. I don't think they have any way to do 2 damage to us in terms of Arcane, especially not with a 2-card hand. They can't block with Skull Cap or else they die. So I just kind of think about it, and I don't see any possible line where they do 2 Arcane damage in 1 turn. I just don't think it's possible. And then that way they are pretty much on the back foot for the rest of the game. So they come in for a Burgeoning from Arsenal. So I guess +2, if I remember correctly. But we're fine just blocking it, which is really good for us. And we go to 1. I mean, that does give them an embodiment of Earth token, but I am just expecting that we're able to go wide enough that it doesn't matter. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not a super complicated matchup. It's just more about managing your life total. It's about knowing when you can pivot. Like if we didn't have High Octane in our arsenal, I think if we didn't have that exact hand, right? If we didn't have a red throttle, if we didn't have a red zipper hit, there's pretty much no argument for us to take all that damage to let them draw. I think it was like 3 cards in 1 turn off of the Plunder run into the Force of Nature. It was like absolutely absurd. That was such a crazy high roll turn. We would have definitely lost if we were not able to present over 20 damage on the next turn. And so that's pretty much the main reason why I was willing to do that. So you just kind of have to read your own hands, know when you have the ability to pivot and when you're fine, basically saying no blocks and trying to survive at any life total. We got the Briar player down to, I believe it was 2 cards, 1 card in hand, 1 card in arsenal, and they still almost died at that point. And that was kind of the point of that pivot turn. And so after that, we're able to close it out. So the question is just how do you get there? And what risks are you willing to take to get to that point? So I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching.